Hey everybody, welcome back to JT Channel, and welcome to a discussion that I've been wanting to have for a while now, honestly. I've been wanting to make this video pretty much since earlier this year. Like, my channel started the day after Christmas last year, and like, shortly after that I started thinking about doing this video, but I wanted to make sure the channel had some time to breathe. I had a decent enough amount of subscribers, which I'm close to 100, two away as of making this video. And I know what this is going to do. I know that it's going to get a lot of views. I know that it's probably going to get some comments. Some are going to be negative. Some are going to be positive. Some are going to be on my side. Some are going to be really tribalistic. I'm going to get screamed at probably a little bit. But we're here to talk about WWE versus AEW and the tribalism and where I sit on the fence and all that. And really, like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but what sparked my interest in finally doing this video is Simon Miller, who I talk about a lot and I never tag him in my videos or anything. I'll have to do that in this one. Simon's my favorite pro wrestling YouTuber by miles and miles and miles. I probably can't even name who number 2 is, to be honest with you. And he did one recently where he talked about how dumb the argument is and how the war, there's no war. It's just, there's a group of fans. It's not even that big. I mean, if you really look at the online community of pro wrestling, the IWC, which I hate calling it that, but that's what it is. It's really not that big of a community of people that are screaming at each other. It's like we're all enjoying ourselves while they're, you know, in the other room screaming at each other. We're in the living room having a great time, and they're in the spare bedroom having a fight. So I just figured I'd finally weigh in on it. And speaking of Simon, I have to agree with the title of his video. It's boring now. I prefer the word dumb. I think it's dumb. And the only reason I think it's dumb is because it's all fine. It's all good to somebody. And that's why the tribalism is dumb. You having an opinion and deciding, well, I prefer the Bloodline storyline over what the Death Riders and John Moxley are doing on AEW, that's fine. You watching a Ricochet match and going, wow, that's really good. But then deciding on the other end that like a Cody Rhodes match, for example, isn't your cup of tea. That's also fine. You can sit on either side of the fence, but this tribalism thing has to stop. I am a part of multiple, pro wrestling groups on social media, not just Facebook by any stretch of the imagination, but in general. And it gets really bad sometimes, you know. A lot of people were being really mean to the Costco guys is what they're called. 2 of the people in that group are literally children, I'm pretty sure. Like, the Rizzler is literally a child. And then, Big Justice, I'm not sure how old he is, but I'm almost positive he's not adult age. So, for people to be going in the comments and being mean, it's like, you're literally bullying children. Like, you realize that, don't you? You don't care because your tribalism is so ingrained that you're just screaming at anything AEW does. Now, did Big Justice's spear look like I could have thrown one? Probably. But it doesn't mean you got to go online and start cussing these kids out. That's literally what I've seen, is people cussing at these children because they're not, I don't know, the Undertaker, I guess. It's hard to figure out what the problem is because AEW haters, I guess, I don't really know what to call them at this point, but like, people can hate AEW, that's fine, but the people that are tribalistic about it, they're really like, I'm sorry if I keep getting distracted, there's a lot of noise in the house right now. We're a busy family. But like, it's one thing if you look at it and you're like, you know, that's kids, should they be doing that? It's not really for me, I'm not really interested. So don't watch it. Skip the pre-show, watch the pay-per-view, don't watch the pay-per-view. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. And that's the other thing. Is a lot of people, and I know I'm sounding like I'm siding with AEW right now, but I promise I'm not. A lot of the stuff that I see is targeted at AEW, and that's because on social media, these trolls are allowed to be as loud as they want, and AEW gets the most, I don't want to say hate, but the most criticism due to the fact of how, you know, young the company is and how different they are from everything else, especially WWE. But my biggest thing is like when these people that can't stand AEW, they hate it, they want it to go away, they are convinced that the company's going to die in 20 seconds, they still watch the shows. They go out of their way to watch a full episode of AEW Dynamite or Collision or Rampage, and then they go online and complain about it. Or they'll comment on a video, on an official AEW video, about how stupid and boring and horrible it is. That's interaction. That's all anybody ever needs. It's the same thing with my videos. I recently had somebody tell me to stop uploading here on YouTube. And I loved the comment because that's interaction. AEW doesn't care if you love it or you hate it. It's interaction. If you share their videos and you go, oh, this is the most garbage thing I've ever seen. I hope these people die in a fire. They're just going to be like, hey, our stuff's getting shared. People are watching. People are interacting with our product. Yeah, they would rather you were positive about it, but, you know, who cares? And like I said, using the Costco guys, again, I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, was just the newest example. Now, if you want to talk about WWE, I'm more than happy to. Like I said a minute ago, I know it sounds like I'm defending AEW, but I'm not. WWE has the same problem. There are people out there who think the Bloodline storyline is the stupidest thing they've ever seen. I would like to give those people a high five in the face, because the Bloodline story, WWE has never been this patient with a story before. It's all started in 2020. And that's my favorite part of this, is there are people that are like, oh man, the OG Bloodline got back together too fast. This has been going on for 4 fucking years. How slow would you like it to take? If they went at your pace, we wouldn't get to this War Games match until 2026. And we don't need to do that. Let's just move along. Let's just go with it. And WWE has a whole nother issue with CM Punk. And I love CM Punk. My mother hates the fact that I love CM Punk, but I love CM Punk. But it is an issue. People are always going to talk about Punk, whether it's good or bad. And there are a lot of people that hate CM Punk just for existing, for the most part. So, sorry, parenting. But people really, if you like CM Punk, you love him. If you don't like him, you hate him. There's very rarely someone who kind of likes Punk or kind of dislikes Punk. So that right there turned a lot of people off of WWE. I know for a fact, I saw people the day after he returned last year commenting on the video saying, well, I'm not watching WWE anymore. I hate this guy. I don't know if they actually stuck to that. Probably not. But people are out there saying they won't watch it just because Punk is in it. People said the same thing about AEW. But it's the same concept. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. People are like, oh, I don't care for this storyline, or I don't want to see Roman Reigns, or I don't want to watch CM Punk. Then don't. Then just don't. Go about your life. Go do something else. Do anything else. Go watch football. Go watch basketball. Go watch hockey. Go watch a TV show. Go watch Game of Thrones. I don't give a fuck. Just don't jump on the internet and scream about how much you hate something if you're going to watch it. That's like me watching The Walking Dead. Controversial, I know, but I never really cared for that show. If I went out of my way just to watch The Walking Dead, just to shit on it, people would be pissed at me. They'd be like, oh, if you don't like it, then just don't watch it. Or they'd call me a whole bunch of slurs because I don't like a show that they like. And again, that's where the trolls get out of hand, and the tribalists get out of hand. There's no reason to call people names or anything. I had somebody made a post. They shared Eric Bischoff's tweet, and I love Eric Bischoff. Loved Eric Bischoff. But he did a tweet about something about why do people still watch AEW? Excuse me. And somebody shared it on Facebook, and I commented. I'm like, I like wrestling. It's that simple. AEW is All Elite Wrestling. WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. So, of course I watch AEW and WWE. Again, I haven't really gotten to where I sit on the fence. I'm just kind of talking about this, but I'll get there in a second, I promise. And a bunch of people jumped in my replies. One guy called me stupid. One person said, then why do you watch AEW? And like it got to the point where I shut notifications off. And I went back to an old notification to check it. And there were like 10 new comments of people just yelling at each other because I like AEW. Like, what's up with that? And they were also yelling at each other about which show is better, which wrestlers are better, and blah, blah, blah. And then, people are arguing about Ricochet, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And as far as like I said a second ago, like, I say that a lot, don't I? But I said a little bit ago that it's dumb. Near the start of this video, I should say. I said it was dumb, and I still think it's dumb. Because everybody is allowed to enjoy what they want. As far as where I sit on the fence, at the moment, WWE is more entertaining, but I've always been an AEW guy, at least for the last 5 years. Because when AEW came around was in 2019. Have you all just forgotten what World Wrestling Entertainment was like in the year 2019? It was horrible. There was the Seth Rollins Fiend Hell in a Cell match. Yes, that was the same year as the Roman Reigns dog food angle with Baron Corbin. And those are the only two things I can think of off the top of my head. Pardon the speed talking. But trust me when I say 2019 was one of the worst years in a long time. So All Elite Wrestling came around just in time. And at first, even I was a little skeptical. I was like, man, a new major promotion on television, just like that. It's just happening. But I think for the first 2 years, especially 2019, 2020, and a little bit of 21, they were on a roll. And they had their ups and their downs. Here we go, being Simon Miller again. And, there's the ratings talk. Don't talk to me about ratings. I don't fucking care. I don't care. If you come onto this video and go, well, Dynamite's ratings last week were poo-poo, I'm going to call you an idiot. I'm just going to reply, idiot. That's all I'm going to say to you. Because when I'm watching pro wrestling, I'm there to enjoy the pro wrestling. I'm not Googling how many people are watching Monday Night Raw right this second. Oh, man, that's 2,000 less on this quarter hour than last week's this quarter hour. But a few months ago, that quarter hour was pretty good. Who does that? As fans, that's not our job. Your job isn't to Google the ratings the day after the show and then complain about them online. Your job as a fan is to just enjoy the product. And see, I talked about AEW and then I talked about Raw. It goes for both companies. Okay? Raw, SmackDown, WWE in general is doing really good right now in the ratings. And yes, AEW isn't as good as it was ratings-wise, blah, 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 blah. Why do you care? Why do you care how many people are watching? If you're watching it, you're one of the people in the ratings. So the ratings are only going to get better if more people watch it. So instead of complaining, shut up and turn on the TV. I'm just saying. My dad points out that I can get passionate and I talk really fast. So I apologize if I've sped through some of this. But again, I have been a big AEW fan since the beginning. And sorry, my phone went off. To this day, I still love AEW. I still love what they do. Jon Moxley is one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. And I mean that. The day he showed up, the first time he showed his face in AEW, I fell in love with the guy. I've been watching him ever since. Some people out there, and I think Dave Meltzer might be one of them, or Tony Khan, or I don't know, one of those idiots. I'm kidding. Dave is just doing his job, and Tony's Tony. But somebody out there, and lots of people say that John is the face of AEW. And people are like, why is he? What does that mean? What is that response? Who do you think the face of AEW is? And don't say, nobody, the company's bullshit. I want you to speak with your mouth and use the brain in your head to tell me who you think the face of All Elite Wrestling is. It's Jon Moxley. It's been Jon Moxley since he showed up. Every time they had to call an audible because of anything, they would call Jon Moxley. Now, a lot of that did have to do with CM Punk, but I'm not going to get into that. John has always been the front and center. He's always been right there for any feuds. He's cut off, I think, 2 vacations to come back and help the company again. And right now, he's doing some of his best work creating a faction. Well, the faction was already created. But taking this faction and bringing Pac in and bringing Marina Shafir and now just trying to take over the company. I love it. You don't see that anymore. Not that I can think of anyway. And I know the Bloodline, And, that's another thing. The Bloodline, I've talked about it earlier, but not a lot. A lot of people don't like the Bloodline story. I'm surprised at how many people I have found online that are like, I'm tired of this, or I can't stand this, or I've always hated this. I highly doubt any of you have always hated the Bloodline story, but I understand it's run a few people into the ground. Like I said, it's been going on for 4 years. But look at how many different stories we've been able to tell with a simple group of 4 or 5 people. And it's been ever since Vince McMahon is gone. It's true. Yeah, he was around when the Bloodline first started, but when he left, but between the times he was in and out, gone and whatnot, look at all the stuff Triple H has been able to do with this story. I mean, look at where we are right now. Roman left after he lost to Cody. Solo took out Jimmy Uso. created a new bloodline with all these super dangerous people from other companies. And then he kept going after everybody. Then Roman returned because he was sick of it, because he's the OTC. And then he was able to convince Jimmy to come back, convince Jay to come back and at least help Jimmy. Then they got Sammy back, and now they're working with CM Punk, which, another whole thing I wanted to talk about. I was going to make like a whole video off of it about like how I feel about it, because I fantasy booked that they would have CM Punk in a different way. The way that WWE did it was way better. I was thinking of kind of copying what they did at the 2010 SummerSlam with Team WWE versus Team Nexus, where they asked The Miz and he kept saying, oh, I don't know. We got Survivor Series and he was like, yes, I will be on your team. And they were like, it's too late, idiot. Here's Daniel Bryan. I hate to bring up SummerSlam 2010 for the same reasons I hate bringing up 2019 in general. That match was a decent match, but the outcome was bullshit. But I was thinking the same concept. Seth could come to SmackDown and be like, all right, I'm tired of Bronson Reed. I hate Roman Reigns, but I'm going to help you guys. And I wanted them to be like, sorry, Seth, it's too late. And I would have had the Usos walk off screen and then Sammy be like, Seth, just for the record, it's nothing personal. And then walk away. And then by the end of the night, we'd find out it was Punk. Now, having Paul Heyman come back and bring Punk back for the team, even better. That sets up about 150 stories all in one. And people are even looking into how Heyman was dressed and that him and Jimmy gave each other winks or something. And now everyone is thinking that there is going to be a swerve, that Punk's going to turn heel and attack Roman, or that Jimmy's going to join Solo. All of this is crashing down on fans because the story is so exciting. There are people that don't think of that way. There are people that do not like this story at all. And like I mentioned multiple times, there are people that hate CM Punk with a passion, who are mad that he's even involved in anything. There are people that love the Bloodline story and hate CM Punk. My mom is a great example. I know that she loves the Bloodline. She enjoys this story. She hates Solo Sikoa. She loves Roman Reigns. She yeets all the time. She's a classic wrestling fan. She loves the bad guys, or loves the good guys and hates the bad guys. But she cannot stand CM Punk. She despises CM Punk. So I'm sure that she was excited until Punk continued to hit, and she probably threw her tea somewhere, because she drinks tea a lot. That's what I mean, is you're allowed to be passionate, but there's no reason to scream at strangers or to say all these things or to use slurs, and trust me, people use slurs, when you're just watching professional wrestling, okay? It's something we all enjoy. It's the only sport in the world that never takes any time off. I mean, they do now, and thank God for that. I mean, honestly, thank God we're no longer in the era where people literally traveled and worked 300 days a year. No, I'm not down with that. And I'm sorry if you're one of the people that misses old school wrestling. You can get right the fuck out. You can go. You can get off my channel. You can go home. You can eat some Cheetos and watch The Undertaker beat somebody up for real because he was mad. I love The Undertaker. He's my favorite character of all time. And even I know he did some bad things back in the day. If you miss like how crowds used to be, that's fine, but we're not like that anymore. It's 2024, not 1986, not 1998. Things are different now. They're taking breaks, which is awesome, but the difference is wrestling is the only sport with no off season. They're getting time off for holidays and family and stuff, and that's great. But every other sport out there, they have their big blowout. You have the NBA Finals, you have the Super Bowl, you have the World Series. And when that's over, major fans of those sports sit around doing this. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Because they got nothing better to do. They can't watch baseball. They can't watch football. They can't watch basketball. All of us are still watching wrestling. Now, is there too much wrestling? No. But there is a lot. Okay, I made a comment a while back. Somebody was like, me watching AEW versus me watching WWE, and it was one of those memes where it's like, the top meme was like, ugh, and the bottom meme was like, you know what I mean, you know the meme. And I made a comment where I said, oh, this is me watching WWE, AEW, New Japan, GCW, MLW, the Indies. I think I brought up Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro and DDT, and someone was like, when do you sleep? I don't actually have time to watch all that wrestling, but I have. I have watched wrestling from other companies that aren't the two major, hanging above our heads, screaming in our faces companies. And it's fine. Impact Wrestling's in there too. TNA. They're TNA again. And that's where the tribalism, to me, we're 20 minutes into this video and I'm finally getting to like the main point. Thank you everyone that is watching this whole video. I really appreciate y'all. But at this point of the video, I want to point out that that's where the tribalism upsets me the most. Everyone's screaming at each other about AEW versus WWE. Bum, 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 bum. But what about everything else? Go out there and seek other wrestling. Tokyo Joshi Pro and Stardom are so good. They're so good. You don't see anything like it anymore. And Stardom, a lot of the future of female wrestling, not just Japanese wrestling, but female professional wrestling, the future is in Stardom. I'm telling you, it's in Stardom, okay? Don't ask me where to find it. I usually just YouTube stuff or Google and watch little stupid videos, but just look it up. That's what I mean. Just look up Stardom. Look up Tokyo Joshi Pro. Look up DDT. DDT can get stupid. I'm warning you right now. There's a giant panda. It's almost said. But New Japan Pro Wrestling and TNA, they need to be in the same conversation as WWE and AEW. They're the four. They're the big four. And New Japan, that isn't for anybody. That isn't for everybody either. There are people out there that can't watch New Japan because there's not enough spectacle. It's not enough sports entertainment. Is that a word? No. My mom, bring her back up. She won't watch AEW because it's not WWE. It's that simple. She's tried, and she can't even call the wrestlers by their real names or their AEW names. Like, Bryan Danielson is Bryan Danielson's real name. She won't call him that. It's silly. But she refuses to watch anything else other than Raw and SmackDown and sometimes NXT. Me, if I can make it happen, I'll watch Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown every week if I'm able to. With my job, it's really hard. But I like watching pro wrestling. And that's why I think that... That's why I feel the way I do about this versus tribalism stuff. It's silly. It's silly. You're allowed to like and dislike whatever you want. But... Sorry, I had to be a parent again. The tribalism thing, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you watching what you enjoy and then going out of your way to take your time to shit on what everyone else enjoys? Like, this is just about pro wrestling, but I can go into so much more with this. It's just like Marvel versus DC. There are people out there that will tell you that you're an absolute moron and call you slurs because you like Batman more than any other superhero because he's not a real hero and scream, yell, collar. I've seen it. Okay, I've seen it. So it just doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're watching this and you're an extreme tribalist towards WWE or AEW, you just heard the Batman thing and you went, that's dumb. Batman is kind of cool. Why are people being like that? You're like that. You are like that. There are people out there who will tell you why the certain movies are better than other movies and why you're a complete moron and need to have your head checked for liking one movie over the other movie. Same thing with music. Same thing with art in general. If you think it's silly that people argue about movies and TV shows and music, but you're screaming at somebody for liking All Elite Wrestling, you're a hypocrite. You're part of the problem. Realize that. Realize that people just like what they like. Realize. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that bullshit. I honestly don't know if I've said enough. I feel like this is a really long conversation that needs to be had because both companies are really good at what they do. And I'm just, I think I've made my point. AEW, yes, they're more like high-flying and their stories, I mean, they're doing much better with stories in 2024 than they used to. But I know sometimes their stories aren't always great, and the wrestling isn't to everybody's tastes. Ricochet versus Will Ospreay is just a bunch of for 20 minutes. But, and at Full Gear, spoilers, excuse me, at Full Gear, speaking of Will Ospreay, he got hit with like 472 tombstones and was able to get up and go for the hidden blade. So I get it. AEW is... They've ruined a lot of moves for people. The tombstone was one of my favorite moves, like, ever. And, to see somebody get hit with a second rope tombstone and kick out at 2 or even 1, it makes you go, really? It's a tombstone. That should probably end the match. But that's just not AEW. AEW is presenting the idea that anybody can do any wrestling move, but not everybody does it well enough to win a match. Because Kazuchika Okada can do the tombstone off the second rope to, I don't know, Bobby Lashley. and Bobby Lashley will throw his arm up at 1, and everyone's like, ah, and then people on the internet get mad as shit. Why did Bobby Lashley kick out at 1 of a tombstone off the second rope? Because it wasn't The Undertaker. That's why. The Undertaker can hit you with 1 tombstone in the center of the ring, and you're done. You're out. You're gone for. Unless you're like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, maybe Mick Foley, a big name. You're not going to kick out of a tombstone. Not Undertaker's tombstone anyway. And don't say, oh, well, the business was a bit different back then. Back then. Not really. I mean, yes, unfortunately, I can't defend the fact that sometimes AEW doesn't let wrestlers win matches with their finishing moves. Like, Swerve Strickland could hit 12 swerve stomps on somebody and they might still kick out. But that's where you revert back to WWE. You're watching AEW and, there's a 12-match card. And in every single match, there's a cutter. Every single match. The women's matches, the tag matches, the singles. There's a cutter in every match. As a transitional move, as a random move, as a sudden, oh, gotcha. And you're like, oh, man, they're ruining the cutter. Then you hop over to WWE, Randy Orton, RKO, 1, 2, 3. Because Randy Orton performs the cutter better than anybody else, except maybe DDP. And I actually like the Cody cutter. And this is an unpopular opinion, but I like Jon Moxley's cutter. I like Jon Moxley. We talked about this already. But a lot of people do cutters in AEW that don't win matches because they're not as good at the cutter. They know it's a good move to hit, so they're going to hit it. I love the cutter. I love it. I think the RKO might be my favorite wrestling move of all time. Like, I mentioned the tombstone earlier, but man, the RKO. And I get the argument. Like I said, I get upset when people will hit tombstones. I didn't watch Full Gear. Apologies if I said I did. I didn't. I watched like replays and watched reviews. Simon Miller. But I lost my train of thought. Oh, like Kyle Fletcher didn't just hit, I think he hit 2 tombstones. One of them was off the apron onto the steel steps. Off the apron onto the steel steps should end the match. Period. I love AEW. I love the 1-2 oohs or the 1 kickouts. I love the 1 kickouts. The 1 kickouts get me every time. And WWE even does them sometimes. But getting tombstoned off of the apron onto steel steps, that should have been it. Will Ospreay should have been rolled in the ring. 1, 2, 3. Kyle Fletcher wins. But that's not what happened. That's not the match they put together. Oh well. What am I going to do about it? Yeah, I could complain online, but my complaining online isn't going to change AEW's perspective. And that's another thing. You can scream about it all you want and hope that someday it'll change. But it just won't. Look how long it took pro wrestling to change in general. I mean, how many years did we go before the women's division was treated properly? Don't calculate it, you'll hurt yourself. And I don't want to get into that, but I guess I have to. This is supposed to be kind of a long video. This is me ranting and raving. But I guess we can shift over to the women's division. And again, I'm not trying to just defend AEW. I know that's what it comes off like. But I just feel like AEW gets the most hate. But like I said, I can't defend Will Ospreay not being beaten by a tombstone on steel steps. I can't. I just can't do it. I'm still going to watch AEW. The women's divisions are another big talking point. AEW has struggled with the women's division, especially this year. They got Mercedes Moné in, who I adore. Can't make me hate her. I'm sorry. And I thought that she was going to be a big game changer. And she kind of was. She got a lot of eyes on the product. You got people chanting CEO. You got Will Ospreay bringing him back in, doing the CEO dance. Don't worry, I'm not going to do the whole thing. But she had that match with Britt Baker. I think that was at All in London. I was stoked. I'm a huge Britt Baker fan. Like, I'm a stupid big Britt Baker fan. I've gone to AEW shows, I think, 4 times, and almost every time I bring a DMD sign, even if she's not going to be there. I just love Britt Baker. So Britt versus Mercedes was like a dream match for me. And it didn't work. I'm just being honest. It didn't work. It was not... The hype around it was bigger than the match itself. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes that helps get eyes on the product. You're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to watch this. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson is a fantastic example of that. 125 million people watched a buffering screen for 4 hours and then watched one of the most boring boxing fights that any of us have ever seen. Any of us. And I'm not even a big old boxing fan. I just know what I saw and how I felt. Same thing goes for pro wrestling. Britt Baker is a big star. Mercedes is a big star. They are both stars. You don't have to like them, and yeah, they're not drawing 90,000 people in the frickin' Tokyo Dome, but when their music hits, they get big reactions. And All In, they got big reactions. Everybody wanted to see that match. AEW fans, anyway, wanted to see that match. And it fell kind of flat. I'll admit it. I was a little underwhelmed by a match I was really looking forward to. You know what other match really underwhelmed and pissed a lot of people off that everyone thought they'd want to see? Goldberg versus The Undertaker. I can hear a collective by about 100 of you or 200 of you just all went facepalm. I hurt myself because of this ring. But you all just facepalmed because you just remembered The Undertaker versus Goldberg. I would have loved that match when they were both in their prime. It would have been interesting to see, big, tough, undefeated Goldberg try to take down The Undertaker. But we all know what happened. It didn't work. Undertaker almost died. And then they had to, force their way and talk their way and fake their way through the rest of the match. Same thing goes for DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. That's right. I brought that up too. I'm bringing it all up. 2019, Seth Rollins and The Fiend. All these matches were in WWE, and people were like, man, that's going to be good. Can you imagine The Fiend and Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell? And then the match started, and it was a little weird that it was all bathed in red lighting, but whatever. It's The Fiend. It's Bray Wyatt. He knows what he's doing. And then Seth couldn't beat him, hit him with everything, and kept hitting him with everything. And it was actually kind of entertaining for a little while. And then the finish happened, and everyone dropped their pants and shit on their TVs. And I get it. It happens all the time. Now, AEW, I'll admit, doesn't have matches quite with that much heat on them, I guess. Like Undertaker and Goldberg, those are two of the biggest wrestling stars of all time. So comparing it to AEW, I already know I'm going to get strangled in the comments. But I'm just saying. I got off track. Reroute. The women's division in AEW is stacked. The women's division in WWE is stacked. The women's division in NXT is stacked. But they all have to do the matches and do the feuds and do the right things. Excuse me. Chris Statlander versus Mercedes, I think, was really fun. Chris got to show her strength. Chris Statlander is another one of my favorites who I think doesn't get what she's owed, I guess, in my opinion. I think she's due a major title reign and a major feud. It seems like all her major feuds just kind of get swept under the rug, other than the one with Willow Nightingale, who is somebody else I love. I just love pro wrestling. Did you know that? But all three of these entities I just mentioned, NXT is still WWE, but they all have really good women's divisions as long as they're booked properly. And a lot of people like to just instantly shit on AEW's women's division. And I get it. Again, I get it. They have all these stars, all these great professional wrestlers, like Serena Deeb. Where is Serena Deeb? She showed up after a Britt Baker match, and I guess we're going to do that match or that feud again. And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I love Britt Baker, and Serena Deeb is fantastic. But this feud is it's really random. Serena Deeb just keeps staring at Britt Baker. They're going to do the match. Serena Deeb should probably win, but will she? And that's the thing, is I said a while back, after that match with Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland inside the steel cage, the unsanctioned cage match, or lights out cage match, whatever they called it, I made a video where I said, Tony Khan knows what he's doing. And somebody said, I agree with everything you said except Tony Khan knows what he's doing. Okay, fine. Let's talk about it. Maybe Tony Khan isn't the greatest booker of all time. Nobody's the greatest booker of all time because everybody makes mistakes. I hate to tell you that, but your favorite booker has made a mistake or two or 7,000. Tony is still new to this. Like, he's loved wrestling all his life. He used his money to start his own company with all these major stars at the very beginning, and he still has some of them, and he's got new ones, he's got old ones, and people come and go, and he brought back Sting, and he's got Chris Jericho, another conversation for another day. He's got young stars, etc. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's not going to let anything happen under his watch that he doesn't want to happen or he doesn't agree to. That's the thing about booking pro wrestling shows. That match between Swerve and Hangman split everyone right down the middle, just straight down the middle. That probably wasn't centered, but either you absolutely loved it or you absolutely couldn't stand it because it was disgusting and they went too far. Me, it was intriguing. I I liked it. I was on the like side. I love the fact that they were able to build a feud that brutal and able to do those things to each other, to use cinder blocks and a piece of wood from a burned down house and a needle, for God's sake, and then an unprotected chair shot, which everyone was like, oh, CTE, Tony doesn't know what he's... I guarantee you the chair was shaved, and it probably felt more like being hit with an aluminum cookie sheet than an actual steel chair. Trust me, I've been hit by both. And forever, the same thing happened at, what was it, Blood and Guts? Maybe? I was at Blood and Guts. Where they did it with Jack Perry. They, just hit him with an unprotected chair shot. Everyone was like, Tony don't care. He's trying to give people concussions. The chairs are obviously going to be gimmicked. Go get a real steel chair from like Walmart or something and hit your buddy in the head with it. And tell me if it bends the way the steel chairs that they used did. The answer is going to be no, because they're gimmicked. It's supposed to be, you go, but it's also supposed to protect the wrestlers. Does Tony protect the wrestlers as best he could? I'm not willing to answer that question because I'm not Tony Khan and I'm not the wrestlers. I don't know if what he lets them do is for the best of their well-being. But he lets them be themselves, Ricochet is a great example of this. Excuse me. Ricochet in WWE was kind of able to show off more in NXT than he was on the main roster, but not like he is in AEW. His first match in AEW, he was able to really showcase what he likes to do, what he is good at. And you don't like it, that's fine. Not everybody likes flippy dippy doo dah nonsense. I do. I love flippy dippy doo dah nonsense. My favorite example, Ric Flair's last match, I was there. I was in the building. I was working as a usher, pointing people to their seats. And the Fatal 4-Way Lucha Libre Showcase match was my favorite match on the whole card. I don't remember everybody that was in it, but I was completely enamored from the entrances to the finish. It had some of the best moments of that show and of the year. I love that match so much. And I know Lucha Libre is different from Ricochet and Will Ospreay, but it's the high flying, it's the flipping, it's the, doing reversals that make no sense and then they both land on their feet and pose. Like, I love that shit. And I know I'm part of the problem with the people that hate that shit. But here's the other thing. My other favorite kind of match, to quote Mr. Big E, is big meaty men slapping meat. I love it when someone like Bronson Reed takes on someone like Ivar. And every time they hit a clothesline, the whole ring just goes nuts. Because that's what I was raised on. I was raised in the 90s, which pro wrestling was changing by then to the new generation with Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, yada yada blah blah. But in the 2000s and the early 2000s, as I became 10 years old and my teenager and stuff, I started to watch old wrestling when it was just a bunch of jacked, roided up guys slamming into each other for 10 minutes and then hitting a leg drop, 1, 2, 3. And that may have been just Hogan's shtick, but what was the most impressive finishing maneuver of the 80s and 90s? Leg drops, slams, a DDT. Remember when the DDT was a finish? Just a regular DDT. Not a flippy dippy doodah backflip spin, upside down, reverse 630 DDT. Just a hook DDT. Match over. Done. That's how wrestling was back then. I still love that stuff. I still get a kick out of two huge athletes just beating the crap out of each other. Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman, last monster standing. 5 stars, 6.5 in the Tokyo Dome. Are you kidding me? So that's the thing, is I'm into everything. I'm into technical wrestling too. I'm into goofy wrestling. R-Truth deserves 6 or 7 Hall of Fame rings and 12 WWE title reigns before he retires. Because he's amazingly hilarious and he's actually pretty damn good in the ring. That's why I am the way I am. That's why I had to make this video. Because I will take anything as long as it's pro wrestling. I have told my wife, who was over there trying to watch her show, and I'm over here rambling and shouting about pro wrestling, that if I could, I would literally never stop. Because there's Raw on Monday, NXT on Tuesday, Dynamite on Wednesday, Impact on Thursday, which is TNA. Fridays is Rampage and SmackDown. Saturdays is Collision. And then Sundays is pay-per-views, and I think Ring of Honor, might be on Sundays. I've watched GCW shows. I love watching MLW. They're free on YouTube and they're unique in their own way. I almost always, every year, I watch Wrestle Kingdom. Every year since Wrestle Kingdom 10 or 11. I almost never miss it. And if I miss it live, I always end up finding a replay. That's the thing is, I would never stop. I would always watch wrestling constantly. And I did when I was younger. You know, my dad would let us watch Raw and SmackDown, and that was all we had when I was a kid. It was Raw on Mondays, SmackDown on Thursdays, Fridays, Tuesdays, whatever. SmackDown bounced all over the place. The only day they didn't hit was Wednesdays. Before WWE started running NXT as a third brand, and then AEW and stuff. And I know New Japan was around back then, and TNA was around back then, and other independent promotions, but I didn't know any better. I was ignorant until 2016 or 17. Whenever the Omega, I think 2017 was the Omega Okada rivalry, where they had 4 matches that by the end of it, Dave Meltzer had given them 87.5 stars. And that's all anyone was talking about, so I checked it out, and that was it for me as far as I knew, as far as I was concerned. I started learning about the indies. I watched TNA back in the day when it was, but after 2017, I really started to get into independent wrestling. See, I'm speed talking again because I'm passionate about this shit. And then I started to watch everything, and then of course in 2018 was All In, and then 2019. From 2018 forward, the wrestling world changed forever, because after the Okada-Omega rivalry and the Jericho-Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom, whatever, I honestly don't remember, everyone started to watch other wrestling products, and people started to be more comfortable. Like, back in the mid-2000s and like 2010, early 2010s, it was like sacrilegious to tell somebody you weren't watching WWE. You're like, I'm watching TNA, and someone would punch you in the face. And it's like, that is a massive overreaction. And it was the same thing if people hated WWE back then and preferred TNA. Same concept. You'd be like, you watch TNA? They literally brought signs with the little guy, the one that pisses, and you would put something underneath where he was pissing. So people were bringing that guy to shows with the WWE symbol right there. They hated WWE. Remember the Voodoo Kin Mafia? That's just Vince McMahon's initials, VKM. Like, the company hated WWE. That was so dumb. That's a deep dive for another day. But nowadays, you can say, I don't really care for either of those shows. I actually watch Japanese wrestling. I prefer Japanese wrestling. Or me, like I said, I watch GCW, MLW. Excuse me, MLW's free. I like watching Progress Pro Wrestling. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like the biggest independent promotion in all of the UK. I'm pretty sure. Once again, Simon Miller. Simon Miller's the Progress Proteus champion. He never talks about it, though. There's others. God, I can't remember all of them. But Evolve was another one I watched a little bit of before, WWE bought it, more or less. And, of course, we can talk about ECW, but, that's a different story. I was really young when ECW was still around and then ended up being bought and killed. But the whole landscape of pro wrestling is better nowadays, and that's why there's a few people out there like me making these videos and these podcasts and stuff nowadays. Like the argument is over. Like, you are officially a part of the minority, and we're starting to ignore you. I have a little bit of fun on social media when people say mean things. Like, someone shared the video of Big Justice hitting that spear on QT Marshall, and someone commented, "What in the actual goddamn fuck?" And I replied and said, I'm sorry if you can't see the video or read very well, but it's a clip of a young man who calls himself Big Justice hitting a professional wrestling maneuver called a spear on another professional wrestler named QT Marshall during the pre-show of All Elite Wrestling's most recent event, pay-per-view, Full Gear. Like, I was talking about passive-aggressive. That was I shouldn't have said that. But I did, because, like, I get what he was trying to say. He was like, what is this? This sucks. This is stupid. I hate it. But if you're going to be stupid, I'm going to treat you stupid. You know what you saw. Yeah, it's a kid, like a teenager or something, hitting a spear on a wrestler. It's QT Marshall. He'd let me beat him up to get me over. It's just, you know, we as a collective unit of wrestling fans, we're starting to leave the trolls and the tribalists behind. We're all moving forward. We're all enjoying our wrestling because there's no point not to enjoy it. You know, that's you know, we get Forbidden Door as well. That's such a cool concept. This major American wrestling promotion that sometimes utilizes Japanese talents, excuse me, is crossing over with a major Japanese promotion, and you get a bunch of dream matches that you didn't know you wanted. Maybe you didn't want them. That's fine. Don't watch. I think my biggest point is just that. Then just don't watch. Don't watch. Just don't watch. I don't care what else you have to say, because the answer is don't watch. It's so simple to me. Like, that's what really bugs me. It's like, man, I can't stand this television show. I'm gonna watch it again next week. Or the people that share those memes that are like, whenever I watch Friends, I just stare at it because it's boring. Then don't watch it. If you don't like the show, then just don't watch it. I like Friends. I haven't watched it recently, but that's because, you know, I have a YouTube channel, a daughter, a job, and I watch pro wrestling. And we have a million other shows we're watching. Another video for another day. But I don't know. I feel like it's that simple. Because you can sit at home and you can see these things online and you can complain about them. Or you can sit at home, you can see these things online, roll your eyes, and then move on to the next thing. It's that simple. If you don't like pro wrestling at all, then don't watch it. Shut up and go do something else. If you don't like AEW, if you think it's outlaw, what is it? Outlaw mud show bullshit? Is that what Jim Cornette said? Something like that? Then don't watch it. Then just watch WWE. Watch the cinema of the Bloodline story. And again, I love WWE. I love the Bloodline story. I've been a Roman Reigns fan since before he was called Roman Reigns. So I'm not trying to make fun of the story, but people are using the word cinema or Oscar-worthy for the Bloodline story. So go watch that. You don't have to watch Ricochet do a 630 into an RKO double stomp DDT powerbomb. But I'm going to watch that, and I'm going to enjoy it. And you screaming at me in the comments of this video, of a Facebook reel, or post, or Twitter, or Threads, or Blue Sky. I'm not on Blue Sky yet. But anybody screaming at me not to watch AEW, or how garbage it is, isn't going to change my mind. Like I said, I had a status, well, a comment on that Eric Bischoff thing where I was just like, I like professional wrestling, so I'm going to watch all of it. And someone was like, well, then why do you watch AEW? And I was like, seriously? Like, that was the question in the first place. Like, ha, very funny. But I watch it because it's wrestling. Any wrestling to me is good wrestling, whether it's goofy, hardcore. And I didn't even get into that. I didn't even get into the fact that AEW brought back, like, truly violent wrestling to mainstream television, which turned a lot of people away from it, but I absolutely adored it. I've always been a big hardcore wrestling fan. That used to be like up out of the frame, my favorite kind of wrestling. Hardcore title was my favorite belt when I was a kid. I used to, when YouTube became more of a thing, I would go online and just look up hardcore title matches. I didn't care if they were WCW, WWE. That's how I found out more about ECW. So when AEW brought back truly like violent wrestling with barbed wire and thumbtacks and fire and really stupid weapons nowadays like Legos. I'm sorry, I think I'd rather be slammed on thumbtacks than even step on a damn Lego. It made me happy. And the WWE's heading that way too. They're not going to get Attitude Era violent, but they're testing more mature angles. They're having blood more often, and you know, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre killed each other in that Hell in a Cell match. So it's nice to see wrestling kind of merging all as one. Like, yeah, you're not going to see every match have multiple cutters or flying things in WWE. However, you are going to see a lot of matches with dives. Even the big guys do dives now in WWE because that's impressive. That's cool. Ivar, Bronson Reed, Roman Reigns used to do a jump over the top rope. I used to love it when he did that. You are going to see it. There are quite a few dives in WWE. There are quite a few finishers being hit and kickouts happening. There's lots of interferences, surprise roll-ups, stuff like that. WWE isn't perfect. but I'm going to tell you that I love it no matter what. As long as it makes sense. If Bianca Belair hits the KOD on Chelsea Green should probably not kick out. If Bianca Belair hits the KOD on Bayley, Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, maybe they could kick out at 1. They're big stars. I love Chelsea Green. I'm just giving you an example. Chelsea Green should be the first Women's United States champion. Don't at me. Sorry about that. I had to be extra. But, and ignore my teeth. They just said. God, I'm actually like I'm really pretty embarrassed I just did that, but I'm worked up, like I said. Where was I? Right. Neither company is perfect for anyone, in my opinion. There are things in WWE that I wish were better. The women's division I wish was treated a little more seriously, especially the women's tag team division. Holy crap. AEW, they have too many belts. I don't know if they have the same amount of belts as WWE, but it feels like AEW has too many belts and doesn't know what the hell to do with them. Whereas WWE, for the most part, tries to keep things balanced. Excuse me. But they're not always perfect. I thought the U.S. title with LA Knight wasn't going anywhere, but Shinsuke, they just had to let Shinsuke win. Shinsuke needs to beat LA Knight for that title. Gosh, I think that's it. I think I actually reached the end of my rant here. The end of this, the caboose of this, just enjoy wrestling. I know those people drive people crazy sometimes, but I'm a just enjoy wrestling kind of guy. If you don't like WWE and you're a huge AEW mark is a compliment, then watch AEW. Have fun. Get invested in AEW like I do. Like I said, I actually did used to watch all 3 shows when Collision first started, especially. Now I just don't have the time. As long as I catch Dynamite and like replays and I catch up, I'm good. If you're the other way, if you cannot stand all Elite Wrestling but you love the Fed, then watch it. It's good stuff right now. The Bloodline story is amazing. Cody and Kevin, oh my God. Kevin Owens hit a pile driver, 2 weeks ago? And everyone had a panic attack when in AEW, one time Orange Cassidy and Penta traded 3 destroyers in a row. Like, you know what I mean? WWE is awesome right now. If you're not a fan of either big promotion, go check out New Japan, MLW, free on YouTube, GCW. Not everyone's cup of tea. GCW is very underground and grunge in a good way. And like I said, if you like women's, if you want to see the next generation of really good, like excellent female professional wrestlers, Tokyo Joshi Pro and Stardom. Check them out. Look them up. Just enjoy wrestling. That's the biggest takeaway I would... If you take away anything from my rant, and I've said a lot, I've sworn a lot, I've stuttered, had my face all up in the camera. My biggest takeaway from this for you would be to just enjoy wrestling. If you watch an AEW show and you don't like it, just roll your eyes, shut it off, go to bed, watch SmackDown on Fridays. Watch Collision on Saturdays and see if it's any better for you. Or other way around. If you watch Monday Night Raw and you're like, man, I'm bored, I can't stand any of this shit. Okay. Shut it off. Go watch something else. It's not that hard. You can enjoy what you enjoy without shitting on everyone else's stuff. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I know this was a really long rant, probably my longest face video ever. Go ahead and comment down below. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to get comments on this video, but go ahead and comment down below. Which company do you prefer? Try not to be too tribalist. Try to be nice in the comments. Just say what you like and what you don't. I like WWE. I like AEW. I like New Japan. I like Progress. Just let me know. And Simon, I'll be sure to tag you in the description of this video because I feel like Simon Miller is almost like, I look up to him when it comes to like how he does these reviews and stuff. He's very fun and we have a lot of the same opinions actually. 9 times out of 10, whatever he says, I'm like, yeah, But yeah, go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Like I said, comment down below. Again, please be nice to each other. Until next time, I might do more of these in the future. Not this specific concept, but maybe more talking videos. They seem to do pretty well. But this is JT channel. I am JT. Just enjoy wrestling. see you next time.